we've like followed each other on socials for the best part of nearly 4 years, I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
say.
something. It's been a really, really long time, and I don't even remember how I came across you guys. But as soon as I
Neither.
did, I mean, obviously, you just cracked me up. But also, it's nice to see Asian faces doing this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I can't remember either. I don't know who followed who first, but I remember it was at a time where I think we were just trying to sort of like create a name for ourselves and just follow other Asian people doing their own thing on social
Yeah.
media. And I think at that time, I'm not sure if you're still doing this, but I remember you were quite like into your cooking and were doing like recipes and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And obviously, since the Traitors has kind of taken over my account recently, hasn't it? And like there's been no time to cook. But I bet Just Eat is very happy right now.
Traitors is probably how a lot of people will know of you, and it was cool. I'm not gonna lie, like at the start of this year, seeing on socials, oh wow, someone that we are actually like mutuals with, like someone that we're acquainted with, actually is going to be on season 2 of the Traitors.
Yeah.
But before that, before any Traitors stuff, I believe, do you work for, is it Transport for
I
London?
do, yeah. I work for TFL, so I work in the corporate events team there.
Sure. So was the food stuff on Instagram, was that just kind of like a little bit of fun for you?
Well, yeah,
Like,
actually what it was, I'm getting old. And I can't remember stuff. And I remember this one day I went to go make something and I thought, and it's something that I used to make like all the time. And I'm like, I can't remember how I do this. Do you know what I mean? Um, and then I thought, I don't have my recipes written down anyway. So actually, it was more like a personal log for myself of where I record
sure.
all my recipes and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. I think social media is crazy because the amount of people that you meet through it, like I've actually made friends through Instagram, through my food page. And these are people that I might see occasionally or even speak to on a regular basis. So that's kind of mad really, isn't it?
I agree, and I think when the internet first came about, there was a lot more of that sense of almost like kind of stranger danger. Like you don't really know who you're chatting to, but I think obviously there's still some dodgy people out there. But I also think we're at a point now where it's a lot more normal for people to find a sense of community online and actually like just chat to people, and obviously like people actually do want to go and find people that have similar interests to
Yeah.
them and chat to them, and
And you
yeah,
know
that sort
what?
of thing.
You're connecting to people that you otherwise would never have connected with, that you wouldn't have met in any other way.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and to have people who are all around the world, that's a great thing as well. I moved around a lot in my youth, in my younger years, in my 20s and early 30s. So I have friends all around the world, and it's really just a good way to keep in touch with everybody.
So obviously you said you have been working for TFL for quite a while. You've been doing like your food stuff more recently. What was it that made you then decide, okay, I want to apply to be on the Traitors?
It was actually because during lockdown, myself and a few of our friends, we used to play this game online on Zoom every week called Werewolf. And it really kind of saved us because it was that one time a week when you were connecting with people. And, before at the end of the game, we'd stay on and have a chat and have a drink together. And it was
Yeah.
great. And so the group were talking about this TV show called Traitors. I didn't even start watching it at the beginning. They were like, exactly like Werewolf. And I was like, I think 6 weeks later, okay, fine. I'll watch it now, shall I? And, I was hooked. I ended up watching it twice.
No, I think I was the same for a lot of people. I think for the first season as well, I only started watching it towards the end of when it was coming out. So then obviously I had the whole of it to watch all at once, and it was over in like a couple of days or something.
And how did you hear about it?
I don't know. I think it was my now wife that was watching it, and like she was probably through friends that she had heard about it. So this was season 1, obviously, like back in was it end of 2021?
22.
Yeah, I'm losing track of the years.
Yeah.
The time's going by very fast. Yeah, end of 2022. Yeah, she was watching it, and I was just kind of like hovering, and ended up getting hooked on it. But I mean, that's one of the things I wanted to ask. I think even though season 1, obviously, it did really well, this like season 2 that you were a part of is just, I think it's kind of blown out of the park. I don't know what were you kind of expecting it to get the reception
No,
that it did?
no. And this is going to sound very naive of me, but even season 1, I didn't actually realize how big the show was. I only realized the enormity of it after I had finished filming my season. It was only then that it had kind of dawned on me, oh, wait, this show's a pretty big deal.
No, I
So,
definitely think there was a big sense of like anticipation as soon as people were aware, okay, season 2 is actually coming. Like,
mm,
I think it was a good time to, I think, for them to drop it as well, like start of the new year when everyone's kind of got those January blues sort of thing.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. And I've had so many people come up to me in the street even and say that it just helped them get through January because it was something to really look forward to. And I mean, I don't know if you've seen this on the social media, on the on Instagram and TikTok and things like that, but even the final, I mean, there were viewing parties up and down this country, and we're talking
mhm.
hundreds of people at these viewing parties. And I mean, when was the last time we saw anything like that for a TV show that wasn't a football match? You know,
Yeah,
so I mean, we could not have anticipated how absolutely huge the show was.
it's almost like kind of like a bit of a cult following, isn't it? Like
Mm.
it, and I think it also like helps that it's almost like this kind of Hun culture. They've kind of latched onto it, and obviously, as soon as they love anything, everyone kind of just gets on board with it, and the memes just provide themselves,
Oh
sort of
my
thing.
goodness. I mean, just the memes alone was so much entertainment. People are so clever. How do they come up with this stuff? Seriously.
Well, I mean, Claudia Winkleman in herself, like, is just a very memeable character. Like, what was it like as well, being able to do something with her for television as well?
She's amazing. I mean, obviously I knew who she was because, we've seen her on our TV screens for years, and um I was never really an avid Strictly watcher, so I didn't really know her personality. So then to meet her and to see her the way that she was, she's hilarious. She's very quick-witted. I find her a little bit kooky, which I really love. Like, she's just out there and she just doesn't give a
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? And that's her charm, and she's just brilliant. She really is actually.
Yeah, I know, and I get the impression from what I've seen in terms of like interviews that she's done afterwards as well, that she is very much down to earth with all of you guys. Like, you know how you might anticipate that the host of a TV show might appear like they're a certain way when they're presenting it, and then as soon as the camera's cut, they just go off to their trailer and whatever. She seems to actually have made a connection with like all like the 20 of you or however many it
Yeah,
was.
there's
Yeah.
22 of us, and yes, she
Yeah.
really does because she knows everything about us when we get to that castle. So it's kind of hard. If you can imagine, it would be hard not to get attached to the people. But even now, you
Sure.
know what I mean? She's so cool. Like, I think I sent her a message the other day. I'm like, Claudia, why aren't you on our screens or something? And she always answers you. She always answers you. And I just think that's so lovely. And it's, as you mentioned, that just shows how down to earth she is.
Speaking about that initial conversation that you had when you first get to the castle, sort of thing, obviously, from what we've seen, you were like putting your case forward for being a traitor. Was that always your like thing that you wanted to be? Were you always like, I want to be a traitor? I think that's the best thing for me, or was it like a last minute decision? Like,
No, it was. So when I applied for the show, I that didn't even come into my mind whether I wanted to be a traitor or a faithful, because to be honest, I didn't even think I'd get in. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't even think I'd get that first call back. So um but once I did, I then realized, I thought, I think being a traitor is going to be my only hope for lasting longer than a day, because I imagine, and it's funny though, right? Because it's crazy because it could have worked out so differently. You just don't know. But I think if I'd been a faithful, I would have been quite mouthy. So either
hmm.
I would have really upset the traitors or I would have upset other people. So I reckon I would have just gotten banished or killed anyway, day one, day two. and and so this is the thing, I think. Being a traitor, part of my downfall possibly was that I wasn't relaxed enough. Do you know what I mean? You know, where you can be at that stage where you're relaxed so that people can get to know you. I didn't
Mm,
allow for people to get to know me. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
Because I just had this immediate barrier up, which I could not have anticipated that's what I would do. Do you know what I mean? So, but the
yeah.
cookie crumbles how the cookie crumbles. And I mean, everything, the dominoes had to fall the way that they did in order for the show to be the way that it was, how brilliant it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also I feel like the way that things played out as well, you might have been the first traitor to get banished, but the way that Harry was going about things, I think it was only going to be a matter of
Well,
time
it
anyway. I
really
mean,
was
they
though,
all
wasn't
went.
it? It really was
Yeah,
though, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? And even looking back now, um, I remember thinking like, Miles, you better watch out for those two. They're gonna come after you. You better
yeah.
get ready to but Miles is so sweet. So now I
Yeah.
realize there's no way that he would have just been as conniving as the other two. Do you know what I mean?
Speaking of memes, do you see his Mean Girls one? That was one of my favorite things. They did like the burn book after he got banished. Like, I mean, that is one thing that I wanted to ask as well, because obviously, when we look back on it now, I mean, I'm sure it's also like a bit further back in time for you, because obviously we've only seen this in January, but I understand it will have been filmed beforehand.
Mm.
But I kind of just want to say, how do you not hold grudges? Because this is the thing that I would be like, right, I would find it so hard when there's that much money at stake. If obviously people turn around and stab you in the back, that is the game's the game. But at the same time, when so much at stake, I would find it really hard to let that go. But from what I've seen, everyone's friends with each other, like
Yeah.
you all hang out, like that sort of thing. So how, like, did it take a while to get to that stage, or was it easier than you anticipated?
No,
Like,
for me personally, no, because the thing is, I went in with my eyes wide open. To me, I was very able to differentiate between my personal feelings for people and the actual gameplay. You know what I mean? Um, so that wasn't an issue for me. And had I had stayed longer, I mean, a lot of my friends, my the cast members are like, "You're just too nice to be a traitor. Why were you a traitor?" And I'm like, "Listen, darling, if I had stayed in longer, trust me, I would have no problems killing you off." Because that was my job. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Because you have to be able to differentiate between the two, and ultimately that's just what it's about. So, what Paul and Harry did wasn't very nice. But also, they were doing their job at the end of the day, weren't they? They needed any
yeah,
excuse to get rid of one of us traitors,
yeah.
and they weren't going to get rid of Miles. So,
I don't know, like from that moment as well, was there any part of you that thought, you know what, I reckon one or two of these could actually make it to the end? Because I know there's only been two series of this so far, but this was obviously the first time that we saw a traitor win.
yeah.
Like, did you think that there was a potential for that,
You
or?
know what? I honestly thought Paul was going to win. I
Mm,
genuinely did see Paul. I thought he was going to win. And when you're in that situation, you're not seeing what other people are saying or how other people are behaving. Or so I didn't even realize. I just thought everybody loved Paul. And I
mm,
didn't realize that some people already had suspicions of him. Anthony's mentioned it. Zach definitely. Brian had pulled up his name. Jazz, obviously, as we
yeah,
know. Do you know what I mean? So,
obviously,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, like, his name had been pulled out of that hat a couple of times, and I didn't realize, but I was thinking he's going to be the mastermind. But, you know, I
Mm.
and it turned out it was Harry. Harry was the mastermind the whole way through.
Yeah, and regardless of anything, it made for good TV as well.
I
Like,
mean,
like you're saying,
brilliant. I mean, there was one moment actually around the round table, and I haven't seen many people talk about this, and I don't understand why, but this was that first moment when I thought, oh my goodness, Harry, you're an absolute genius. So there was one point when he discussed almost verbatim what we were discussing as traitors in the tarot. and he said it at the table, and he made it sound like he came up with the idea. And I thought, damn, you are
Mm.
freaking smart, boy.
It's worrying though. You know what I mean? Like when people are so good at that sort of thing. Like I could never go on like a show like this because I can't even lie without like smiling because I just start laughing like we when we play like kind of board games that are like similar type of thing to the Traitors, I just will give up just because I'm like I can't keep a straight
Really?
face. Yes, I could never do anything
Oh,
like
and
this.
so this was the thing, because I've played those kind of games quite a lot, and that's why I thought it'd be a good idea to be a traitor, but I had no idea I would succumb to the stress and the pressure the way that I did. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm so used to kind of playing these games and it's never been a problem for me before, you know? But I guess real life is different though, isn't it, when you're doing something in person like that?
And I think the thing about the Traitors as well is, like you said, anything could actually happen. Like, there's actually no guaranteed way or how you should go about things. Like,
Mm,
because literally anything could,
yeah.
any person could have their suspicions. Anyone could banish you. That sort of thing.
You know what I
Like,
mean? It could be
yeah.
one little thing. And I think when you're a traitor, there's that added pressure of you're constantly thinking, oh, I hope I don't say the wrong thing. You know,
Mm,
am I, oh, are they going to find me out? Oh my goodness, how did I look then? And so when you're feeling that way, it comes out in the energy, in your energy around you, doesn't it? You know, and that's what people pick up on. And you can't really go in with a strategy either, because how can you have a strategy when you don't know who the other contestants are? Because it's very relative, isn't it? It's very dependent on who they are as people and their personalities and how you're
mm.
going to gel and how you're going to get on together.
I mean, and speaking of those relationships as well, like, I mean, I think we saw at the beginning, if I remember correctly, that you were quite friendly with Sonia. But is there anyone who actually you got on with as part of those like 20, 22 people that you actually like, you know what, I actually got on really well with them and we didn't really see it on screen sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, because if you think about it, you're together quite a lot, aren't you?
Mm,
And with the edit, like there's only so much that they can show. Um, but I think one of the people that I was always really close with in the show at the beginning was Meg and Zach.
mm.
You know what I mean? Those two were my two people. And ultimately, say if I had gotten to a bit further on, there's no way I would have voted for either one of them two, whether that be up in the turret or be around the round table. So those two I would have taken with me towards the towards the end. That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
They're both gonna kill me now. But I mean, I was even hanging out with Paul quite a bit, like with some of the other lads, like, and also Jasmine and Ross, and do you know what I mean? So yeah, you see, that was my problem. I'm not, even at school I was never like this. I never had just one group of friends. You know, when everybody has their little clique, I was never like
Yeah.
that. I'm like, I don't join cliques. I don't care. I want to be friends with everybody. And that was also partly my downfall, wasn't it? Because I mean, how else do you get to know people if you don't talk to them? That
Yeah.
was one of my arguments around the round table. I'm like, how am I supposed to make informed decisions as a faithful if I can't get to know people?
I feel like I'm forcing you to like relive that trauma right now. I'm sorry if this is triggering for you.
I'm so over it now.
Yeah. Yep, sure. Obviously, the show came out in January. I think by the end of it, the figures were something like 6, 7 million people watching per episode. And you all 22 of you, obviously, like, you weren't necessarily in the latter half of the episodes, but all 22 of you have kind of been elevated to this sense of like I want to like celebrity influencer kind of status. Like what has it been like to kind of go from literally working at TFL, doing your little like food vlogs to then like thousands of people knowing who you are across the country?
Like, it's kind of crazy. And I honestly thought to myself, and this was before the show was released and the cast were released, like I genuinely was thinking to myself, Listen, who's gonna even pay attention to that middle-aged Asian woman? Nobody is even gonna notice me. Nobody is gonna know who the hell I am. Like, it's totally fine. And it's to have the absolute opposite happen. I am just quite gobsmacked, really, because literally every day when I leave my house, like I always get stopped on the street, or I might be like in the local shops, or I might be in Sainsbury's or somewhere, and like people are stopping me. And even the other day, I was stood on the corner. I think I was waiting for an Uber or something, and it was dark, and like somebody recognized me. I'm thinking, dude, how did you even see me? Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of weird, though. Like it just feels weird, doesn't it? You can
Mm.
imagine.
I think that's one of the reasons why it works so well, though. I think it's kind of become clearer and clearer that the British public is at a point now where we really want to see people that reflect us.
Mm,
Like, I mean, I think it's kind of obvious which show I'm referring to, but we're kind of fed up of like seeing like the same
yeah,
age group, the way
yeah.
that people look,
the
the
way the
same
way
kind
that they
of,
sound, the way that it's
yeah.
just kind of like you're absolutely right, because people, when our show was on, people weren't even really watching that as much. Do you know what I mean? That show, they were
Yeah, no,
watching
that
our
that's the
show.
exact thing because it was obviously it was on at the same time, and I remember thinking I actually have no because I've watched the other show a lot like in the past like I'd say like the like basically like the past like 7 years.
Yeah.
I think say maybe a couple of years ago I stopped like watching it like religiously, but I think I have got to the point now I just like I don't actually have any desire to really watch this
No.
because
And I'm the
like
same. I did that last year. I started watching it and I was like, this is just so boring. I just don't understand. Do you know what I mean? And I
mm,
think I think you're absolutely right. People don't want to see scripted reality. They want just normal, regular people, people that you can connect with. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's really the beauty of the show, the UK version, especially. I think that's why it's so huge, because we're just normal everyday people. You see us in Sainsbury's, like you can just come up to me in the street and say hello to me and ask me to take a picture, and I'm always going to be happy to do it. Do you know what I mean? So it's not, like, to say even celebrity, it just feels kind of weird.
yeah, I feel like there needs to be a different word for it almost because celebrity has become so entwined with this idea of lavish wealth and just doing like
Yeah,
this, that, the other. But there needs to be another word for people that are just like they're just well known, like
yeah.
respected figures. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
maybe yeah, we should have another name for it. Because,
yeah.
at the end of the day, darling, I've still got my day job. Do you know what I mean? I still got to be up tomorrow morning to work.
I wanted to ask this as well because part of the reason why we're here today, like something that spurred on this conversation was I remember you commented on one of our posts talking about how you are, obviously as a middle-aged brown woman that is wanting to go against the grain almost,
Yeah.
and there's various struggles that are associated with that. So, in regards to that, what are you thinking now in terms of how you're kind of navigating this really weird in between that you're in, where it's that, like, say, you're doing your day job, but there's like a 1 in 10 or 100 chance that people are going to recognize you on the street, sort of thing.
I didn't realize that I would have a platform. You know what I mean? And like you said, I don't really follow the usual Asian woman social norms. Like, I'm not really necessarily big into culture and or about following the rules. I'm in my mid 40s, I'm single, I don't have kids, and I am never going to have kids. Do you know what I mean? And there's no pressure on me to do so. But that's also because I created that. I had to go through stuff to be at that point today. Um, and I feel like I want to know if there's space for me in the media, if there's space for me to have a voice, if there's space for me to be out there. And I have also kind of questioned that, and then I think to myself, well, why shouldn't there be space for me? Absolutely. And I think I wonder if there's more people like me than I actually realize that there is. And they don't have to necessarily be Asian women, but just women in general who are in their 40s, who just, we don't have kids, we're not married, we're just living our life and having fun.
Yeah, definitely. I think there is definitely almost a double standard there in terms of the different genders as well. Like, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is thinking about news readers, for example. You see how they always kind of have like the younger one with like the silver fox kind of thing, and it's this
Mm,
sense that once a woman gets to a certain age, they don't want to like we essentially wheel her out and put her in front of the public anymore, and it's not
yeah.
right. Like,
No, this is the thing, and I'm at that weird age, aren't I, where I'm not young, but I don't fall into the older category either.
for sure.
So I'm kind of like in this little limbo. But there's so many women who are also, do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm really hoping, I'm just currently looking at, I'm just working on getting some stuff together, getting a reel together, getting some headshots together, and just, going out to agents, and to see where this can go, because I've realized actually, and I didn't realize it before, but I think I do. I think I want a career in this industry.
It's nice as well that obviously you've um like by chance now almost have this like portfolio as well, like of you. And again, because this show is it's reality TV but it's unscripted, you very much kind of seeing yourself like on camera as you are, sort of thing. And I think that's almost like the best way for people to see you as an example of what you can actually offer, sort of thing.
For me, also, one of the reasons why I applied for Traitors, because I didn't feel like it fell into that reality
Mm,
category. It was kind of more like a challenge game show type of thing. So,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? And I think I now feel like, I've been given this opportunity, and it would be really silly of me to not try and do something with it, you know?
Yeah,
And
like
also,
continue riding the wave as well.
yeah, and but this is fun. Like, even doing stuff like this, I love it. If I
Yeah,
could just get paid to talk all day, hello.
trust us. We'd all love that. Even from obviously this like half an hour chat that we've been doing, I can tell that like that you feel like comfortable in doing this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Because to
yeah.
me, it's a bit like, I was a bartender for many, many, many years in all the different places that I lived, the different cities and different countries. And to me, I feel like this is almost like an extension of that, because when I was behind the bar, I'm just going to talk to anybody and everybody. And
Mm.
so this just feels a very natural next step forward. It just feels very natural, you know?
And I think also it's nice that like at no point I don't think anyone would look at you as you've been on the Traitors and be like, oh okay, yeah, Ash should do a show about um like say like something to do with Asian culture sort of thing, because like you said that's not your bag sort of
No,
thing.
no,
Like, and I think it's nice that like I don't think people would think that because they've
no,
seen you on TV. I mean, obviously that doesn't mean that they have to like ignore the fact that you're a middle-aged brown lady, but at
yes.
the same time, like that doesn't mean that they have to then pigeonhole you into just
Well,
talking about
well,
that.
this is the thing, and even if you look at my Instagram page, and you look at like my food, you know, even people expected. I think sometimes when I give people my Instagram page, they most of the time expect. Oh, is there going to be Asian food? Actually, there's hardly any Asian food on there. It kind of reflects who I am as a person, my tastes. Even looking at my friendship groups, I have people, close friends, who are from all around this world. There's no one set group, there's no one set ethnicity, race. Do you know what I mean? So,
Sure.
and I think that's just who I am as well, just as a person.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure chatting to you
Oh,
today.
you
Thank you so much for
too.
taking the time. For anyone that isn't following you as of yet and does want to keep up with your future ventures, where's the best
Yeah.
place for them to
I
find you?
mean, so I do have all of the social medias, but it's Instagram. That's where I am nearly all the time. And that's the real Ash Bibi. And I had to do that because someone was trying to fake my account. And I was like, ugh, now I have to be one of those idiots that calls themselves the real person.
Hey, at least you know that's when you've made it. If people are trying to impersonate you.